Alright, what's up guys? I got a kind of special video for you today. We're going to be installing a new suspension on at least the springs on the WRX behind me. I already have upgraded springs and shocks in there. However, the springs that I have, they're lowering springs, they're Epic Engineering lowering springs, which look really cool, but they're not very good for autocross and they're not good for handling. The spring rates are way too low. They're just a hair over stock, which is like nothing. And I think they're like 1.6 inches is what their website says for the drop in the front, which is way too low. I end up hitting the bump stops whenever I'm autocrossing, and that's not good because basically your spring rates go through the roof then, and you lose all grip in the front, and that's why I have so much understeer in the front of the car. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna fix that. You're probably wondering, what did I get to fix that with? I didn't get coilovers, I didn't get any of that stuff. We're gonna use the same struts. However, I got these from IAG Performance. I think they're down in like Maryland, but these are USDM pink springs. You can see they're from an STI. So yeah, we got those. That's the front ones. Here are the rear ones. They're a little bit taller. Well, at least the spring's a little bit taller, but that's just how the springs are for this. So they're in good shape, they're not rusty. They're pretty good on top. That's not rust, it's actually just a little bit of like wearing off the paint. So these are in good shape. So I'm not gonna go ahead and do a whole install video and all of that for you guys, taking out each bolt and everything. I've done this like 1,000 times on different cars, and I've done it on this one and my other cars. So I'm not gonna go over what bolts to take out and how to do it. I'm just going to show you kind of what I'm installing, do a couple clips of, you know, jacking the car up and that sort of thing, and showing you guys the drop and maybe even taking it for a drive and giving you like a little performance review of that. Maybe in this video, maybe in another video, not really sure. But I'm really excited about these, so I'm excited to get the car back to kind of like a stock ride height. So that's it. Let's go ahead and get to the install. Alright guys, been working at this probably like an hour and a half. I've made pretty much zero progress. Let me show you what's wrong. In here you have two bolts. You have this 19mm here and then another 19 down here. This one I actually got all the way out, no problem. This one, from its position right here with just a little bit of room here and a little bit over here, I cannot get this out. I've literally been pounding it with a hammer without trying to mess up the threads. I've been putting, you know, wood behind it, pounding it. I've been adjusting the suspension up and down, just smashing it, hitting it, trying to turn it out. I've literally tried everything. They shouldn't be this hard to get out. But then again, you want to look at my car. See all this? This is what we call rust. And although the car has not been used this year in the snow, it's been used for 11, 12 years in the snow. So this is what you essentially get when you have an old car like this. In case you're ever thinking about buying an older car and you're like, oh, I got this 2002 WRX and I'm gonna, you know, put a suspension on it and freshen it up. This is the shit you run into. This is like commonplace all the time. This side, I actually don't know on these ones. I got the bolts off, like I got the nuts off of the bolts, and I haven't even attempted this side. I actually kind of got a little freaked out because I got, see this one's like mostly out. I actually got the bottom one out on the passenger side, and then, you know, I was like, shit, now I can't get it back in because of the suspension shift. You know what I mean? Like the holes aren't lining up. The strut and the hub are not lining up anymore. I'm like, shit, now what do I do? You know what I mean? Like, even if I wanted to, you know, get this out of here and take it somewhere, now what do I do? I can't even move the car. So I ended up putting a board under one of the lug nuts and simulating putting a tire on. I just jacked it just a tiny bit, not a lot, to put a lot of pressure on that lug nut, but enough to get it back in place, and then I got that bolt back in there. So I know the bottom bolt will come out. I cannot get the top one for the life of me right now. And I've done this suspension on this specific car. I've done it before. I used anti-seize on everything. I did it the correct way. I cannot get that bolt out. It just looks like after another 4 years with that rusty bolt sitting in there, it's now seized up again. So I'm not really sure what I want to do with it right now. I haven't figured out if I'm actually gonna just pound it out and then have to go get another bolt or something. That's always an option. But when you pound it out like that, if you start pounding it and you can't pound it out, now you can't get the nut back on it. And now you have one stuck in there with no nut, and now you're kind of screwed. So, you know, that's just salt. You see, look at this. I just want to show you guys. I don't even drive my car in the wintertime anymore. This is from driving it once. Okay, this is the salt that gets on it. Salt. Shit salt. And it's such a nice, look at that, the camera can't even adjust, it's so nice out. It's such a nice day out, and that's the salt that's actually on the roads. Like, look at all this shit. Like, let me show you the salt that's on the road. These roads are supposed to be black, and they are salty. Salt, guys, salt. It's complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. So, I'm glad I tried to do the rears first, because the rears are always a little bit harder. Just the way the suspension is and everything, the rears are harder. So I just need to get this little guy out to get these little guys in. And it's becoming a pain in the complete ass at this point. Alright, so I finally got one of the springs out, and you can actually see they're on level ground. This is actually the height difference in the springs, which is pretty much nothing. Obviously the kinks are a little bit higher, but not by much. These are the rear ones, by the way. And if you can see it, here it is in the car. Nice and almost new, but not dirty at least. I didn't bother cleaning the strut off because it's going to get dirty again anyhow. But it's all up in there and all buttoned down. Alright, so we got the front ones, front one assembled currently, and the rear ones are already on. Alright, what's up guys? Finally got back to my place. I filmed yesterday doing the spring install at my parents' house, and ran into a lot of difficulties. And if you hear the cat howling, she's actually down here. She's freaking out because this is like the first time I've been home in like a day and a half. I went ahead and did the spring install, and I've done spring installs like, you know, multiple times on different cars, and I've done probably 3 or 4 Subarus just like single-handedly by myself. Obviously maybe just with another person, like kind of just helping me, you know, guide it up and put a bolt on or two, but mainly doing it completely by myself. Like, it's not really that hard actually, but you run into issues when you have a 2004 like this little guy. Obviously you're gonna run into rust issues, and I don't even think it was necessarily rust issues, but the suspension on a GD Impreza is a little different than the two GCs that I had before this, in the fact that the rear suspension seems like you need to push it down a little bit more and wiggle the strut in to kind of get the bolts out, in and out. That's how much she's like freaking out because I'm actually here. This cat's crazy. It just took so long to get the bolts out and in. Like, you can break them off. That was not the problem. It wasn't really rust, I don't think. It was just pushing the suspension a certain way to get that bolt out. And it took forever for the rear ones. Honestly, the front ones, I did both of the front ones in like an hour and a half flat. Like, it was no issue doing the front ones. There's so much more play in the suspension, and you don't have to push it down and at some weird angle. So in the end of the day, I eventually did get them all out, and we'll show them to you. These are the Epic Engineering springs. They've been in there for 3 years. They're gonna go off to a new home here shortly, either in Oregon or Iowa. I have 2 buyers in, and then I have somebody locally, so hopefully the local person wants them. I'm gonna give them first dibs just because they are local, and then I don't have to ship it. If I have to ship it, that's money out of my pocket that I don't get to make on the springs. Either way, it's gonna be basically an even swap. I got the other springs on a really good deal at like $140. I paid like $220 for these back in the day, but I've used them for 4 years. So if I get, you know, the $140 out of them with shipping and everything done, if I get $140 in my bank account when I sell them back, I'm okay with that. It's an even swap, and my car's a lot better. You guys are probably wondering, is the car actually any better? And I do have to say, it's better in 2 regards. The 2 things that I've noticed, number 1, hands down, is the handling of the car staying level around a corner is so much better. There's like 0 body roll. I mean, I don't want to say 0, I didn't really push it autocross wise, but just random driving and a little back road driving, it was so much better. It was amazing. It was how the car should have came from the factory, I guess you'd say. And then the second thing I have to say is riding over, bumps and little dips and things like that, and even hard dips, because there was more suspension travel, the car reacted so much better. It stuck to the road and everything was glued to the road and everything was great. Even the dips didn't feel harsh. They felt very controllable and just like how the car should have came is what I'm saying. And lowering your car, it looks cool, but it does not give it that performance. And I have to say, like, I would never lower a car again unless I was going with coilovers or something like that. Now these do lower the car like 10 to 15 millimeters, it says, which is like half an inch. But I'll show you guys kind of the drop that I got. I have about a maybe like a 3-finger gap. I'm not gonna get scientific with this. 3-finger gap in the front. The rears here, probably about a 2-finger gap. Honestly, it's good like that. The fenders in the front are actually bigger, so that's what you're gonna get with an Impreza. It's just gonna be, it's gonna be like that. It's gonna look a little awkward, but that's the way the car was intended to be ran. That's the way they, the STIs come, the WRXs come a little bit higher in the front. Not really because it's higher in the front, but because the wheel arches are bigger. So the car is back. It's handling so much better. It feels so much better over bumps. I have more suspension travel, and I can't wait to turn it up at autocross and just see how it is, because I think it's going to be amazing. I can't believe these springs, honestly. They lower the car. It looks good, but they're just crap. I'd never get them again, honestly. And I'm probably going to write up a review online, if not do a full review of kind of like just me talking about it, maybe in the car, or just discussing the difference in the springs or whatever. But Epic Engineering springs, not so great, honestly. The ride comfort is not that great. They're hair over stock, which is why when you go from stock to something like that, it feels so much better when it really isn't. You should just wipe all that off your conscience and go with the $250 USDM STI springs you can get from the dealer, or you can find them used for a lot less, probably in the 150 range, and you're gonna be a whole lot happier. So that's all I want to tell you guys about that. I know I didn't really do a whole lot with the install and everything. I was actually really frustrated with doing it in the rears and just what I had to go through to get the rears out. The fronts went really good, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to, I know this cat, come on girl, come on. I didn't have a whole lot of time to film and everything. My hands were really greasy and I didn't want to touch my camera and everything, so I just didn't get to it. This cat is seriously going crazy. This is crazy. Anyhow, I'm gonna leave you guys with that. USDM pink springs for the WRX and STI. Go get them. Maybe if you don't have an STI, they're gonna be about the same. The car actually feels kind of like an STI at this point. The struts are KYB XLG replacement struts, which are not valved the same way an STI strut is, so it's a little different. But overall, it's very similar to an STI. For $140, you can't beat it, so go ahead and get those, and you're going to be really happy with daily driver or at autocross or the track. So good if you don't want to go to a coilover setup, which would probably be the next step up. So peace out, and I will talk to you guys later. See ya.